Alright guys, this video finally concludes my header install series for my 2002 Camaro SS, and I just wanted to quickly review and give my opinions on the SLP long tube header kit that I had bought for this car, and obviously that you guys have hopefully watched me install and tackle and get it fitted on to help improve this car, just in minor subtle ways. And when I got this kit, if you couldn't tell from my introduction, I had just a few expectations of what this kit would do for this car, and the first being the appearance, and that it would brighten up my engine bay and get rid of that corroded, rusty GM header header set that was already original to the car. And I was looking for just a little bit of, a little bit better exhaust tone in the finish, and I feel like I did get that. I feel like it's the under acceleration especially. It's a more throaty tone. The sound while driving from within the car is actually, that caught me by the most surprise. It really did. It sounds more, I hate to use the word muscular because that's a cliche, but you can really feel a little bit more of the engine rumble, and just more of the characteristic of a good old-fashioned American V8. Now, it doesn't sound like it has some radical cam in it or anything like that, which really I'm not even going after that sound anyway. But it was a tone that I'm happy it ended up having. It's not so overbearing that it doesn't sound like something that was made in the 60s or 70s, which there's nothing wrong with old-fashioned muscle cars, but I think not every American V8, and especially not modern fuel-injected LS cars, or any modern fuel-injected American V8 should have to sound like every single muscle car from the 60s and 70s. I think every car deserves to have its own sound profile and develop its own, I guess, persona, sound exhaust persona, or its own attitude that it kind of displays while it's being driven, whether it be lightly or under full throttle. And so now this SLP long tube header kit has given this car a slightly deeper tone. It's a little more raspy under acceleration, and the noise from the driver's seat going down the road, or just not really putting pedal to the floor, it definitely sounds a little more old school, which is okay, but it's not so much to where it bothers me. I'm really happy with it, and so far I've driven the car maybe, I would say, 50 to maybe 100 miles since the headers have been installed. So I'm still getting a little bit more of an idea, and obviously the headers themselves may be making some adjustments physically on the car since the install, and that includes the flexibility and the growth of the metal on the cats, on the Y pipe, on the headers. So the car may slightly adjust, or the header set might slightly adjust to normal use after a while here, but I think I have a pretty good idea of what it sounds like, and I really do recommend this header set for somebody who has a slightly modified car, or it is going the bolt-on approach. Now, you could fit this header kit to a car that you intend on building. Obviously it's going to take whatever modifications are going to be adjusted to your needs. That I think this header kit can be applicable to your build, but for somebody who is really going a lightly modded approach and almost completely bone stock approach like I am, I think it's a nice touch. It's a nice move to clean up the image and the sound of the car, because like I've said before, I feel like this car is great the way it is, and I really don't think it needs a lot of change. So it was just building on a great thing. It's like a beautiful painting. You really don't want to disturb too much of it, but this was kind of like putting the painting in a better frame, a better looking frame. So I definitely am satisfied with the initial sound impression that I've gotten, whether it be under hard acceleration or just daily, or I don't want to say daily driving, but driving within 2,000 or 3,000 RPM around town and just down streets and not being, you know, not being really loud with it. But the sound is good, the appearance is great. Obviously, over time, hopefully, I'll continue to review this car over however long I have it, hopefully for a while. But initial appearance, great. Cleans up the engine bay a lot. You know, nice shiny stainless steel is always a good thing. And it also frees up some room on both sides of the block now that we don't have those ugly factory heat shields in there that were almost, you know, now that I think about it, the factory headers with the heat shields may have actually been thicker or wider than the long tubes that are now on this car. So it frees up a little bit of room, I think, in one dimension or another, and the sound is there, and hopefully I'll get a chance to take this car to the track in the summer and hopefully see a slight, big emphasis on the word slight, performance gain at the track, especially in the upper RPM range, because really that's what long tube headers are designed for, is for better breathing when you start getting closer to the red line. Expect to lose a little, just a little bit of torque on the low end, and not so much that I felt it, but it makes physical sense that you're going to lose a little bit of oomph in the lower power band because of the way the exhaust gases are going to flow through the engine, whether it be the pressure and or vacuum effects that are going to happen to your exhaust gases as they're leaving the motor. So hopefully when I get this car to the track this year, hopefully at least once this year, I'll get an extra breath when I'm in the higher RPM band, and hopefully when I'm at a higher speed. So the notorious overhead valve motor, stereotype where they run out of breath right at the top of the band will kind of be subdued. And they're great for really low end torque, and they really punch at the low end of the gear, but most of you guys watching this video probably have had experience with pushrod engines. Since I know some of you may ask, this is literally the remainder of the SLP long tube header kit that I did not use on my car. Even after thoroughly reading the instructions from SLP and even the DIY instructions that I found on the internet from a random poster, using 2 sets of instructions, these are the components that I just could not find a use for. If you remember from the install vid, the wiring harness on the left there is for the ABS control on the passenger side of the motor. Could not find a good route for that wire to go into, so like you saw in the video, pretty much kept the stock wiring routing in place, and I had no use for it. So now I have a ABS harness extension that I've never used, and then 4 extra zip ties, and that I wouldn't be surprised if those zip ties were somehow wrapped into where that ABS harness extension would have gone and used to secure that wire to some things. But I was able to use everything from the kit. Everything worked out, pretty well, and everything's attached to the car really well. And of the handful of miles I've put on it already, no problems, no check engine lights, no codes thrown, nothing. So everything's running fine, and I just could not find a use for that ABS wire harness extension and these zip ties. But everything else pretty much went into place. There definitely was some times that this kit tested my patience, and it was difficult at times. Why they would have you pass it in front of the header, through this motor mount, back across the header, just to go into the same damn spot that it's in right now. This right here has probably caused me to pull the most, all the hair that I've pulled out over this project has been over this piece right here. The one frustrating thing I didn't get footage of was actually the final adjustment on the exhaust pipes, and especially the exhaust tips. I really fought to get them centered. I mean, really fought to get them centered. And I kind of cheated by using a pipe expander that I had access to, and some friends of mine that are ASE ASE guys, they helped me out with straightening the exhaust up, but it wasn't really that bad for what it is, and I think the advantages that it gives you, or the gains that you get from it, the work is worth it. It really was. Now the price was a little steep. I mean, personally, the kit plus the plugs and all the miscellaneous stuff, you know, around $1,500. I know that's really steep for a header set for LSs, but you got to think that's cats included and everything's straight bolt-on. There's no modification required, and that to me is worth the money. Not having to, you know, Frankenstein my car, Frankenstein the header kit in order to fit to the motor. So the price for me wasn't a big issue, and I really don't dump a lot of money into this car. I mean, I spent a lot to get it, but since I plan to maintain the stockish, very, very lightly modified course, I mean, it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that much money over the amount of time that I plan to own this car, and even over the amount of time I've had it already. So overall, happy with it, and there's definitely things to be happy about when it comes to driving this thing, and overall I'm satisfied. There's a few things that were kind of surprises to me, and like I said, were kind of frustrating, but in an overall sense, I would recommend this kit to somebody who's going the lightly modified approach, you know, nothing too crazy. This kit obviously can be applied to a higher degree or more expensive build, or if you're going more radical with your build, I'm sure, but I really don't have much experience with that path using this kit, so I'm not really in a place to give that kind of perspective or that kind of advice. But for the most part, I do recommend this kit, and I'm glad I could support the company that helped build this car, which I really like. So hopefully I'll have an exhaust clip video posted for you guys soon of, you know, various angles of this car, and, you know, just an overall sound of what to expect from a stock LS motor with the SLP header kit installed. And if you're like me and you're going to car shows this summer, or plan on going to car shows or car events in southern Ohio, northern Kentucky, kind of eastern Indiana territory, I might see you around.